Hi everyone, Katie from Chords Records. I'm going to go through what I feel are my final top 10 record store day picks that I'm going to be really looking out for. And I'm going to tell you why, just in case it helps you, the reasons why I'm going to be going after them. Could I ask you to like this video, subscribe? It'd be fantastic to get some support. I appreciate it. But first, I just want to go through 5 rapid round pre-orders that were announced this week, which I thought might be interesting, that I'm kind of excited about and interested in. So the first one is the Olivia Rodrigo, You Seem Pretty Sad for a Girl in Love. That's being released on June 12th. That's her 3rd album, first one in several years, so really excited by that. The next one is ZZ Top Analog Productions, UHQR. Their Tres Hombre, was it their breakout album in 1972, getting the UHQR treatment. Super excited by that. Limited to 5,000, being released on April 24th. On Ted Lucas. Now, if you don't know who Ted Lucas is, he's a bit of a cult figure from Detroit. Had a troubled life, was a kind of a alt folk singer. Third Man Records have been, looks like they're releasing a bunch of his stuff. So the first one was last year, which I got, and it's such a stunning album, and he's a beautiful folk singer. Now they're releasing a 3-album box set of a whole bunch of other stuff from him. So that's Third Man Records. That's kind of a retrospective set, and that's out on May 22nd. And then the final 2, Jack Johnson's announced an album, but this is the soundtrack to the documentary of his life, and the documentary's coming out at South by Southwest on May 15th, and the album, the soundtrack to that documentary, is dropping the same day. It's called Surfle Music. And then finally, Miles Davis, we've all heard about it, The Birth of Cool, the Tone Poet, it's getting a Tone Poet treatment, all coming out May 22nd. So yeah, there's a bunch of pre-orders announced. I will just mention another thing that's just dropped by Universal. They seem to be doing a soundtracks reissue, and they've just announced a pre-order for a bunch of soundtracks, including The Big Chill, The Big Lebowski, Scarface, The Godfather, The Good, The Bad and The Ugly. So if you're a soundtrack fan, watch out for that. Right, Record Store Day, my top 10 picks. Number 1 is Joni Mitchell, For the Roses. I have several Joni Mitchell, For the Roses copies here. I've got maybe 3. I've got them in various iterations from the box set, etc. This is a really interesting album, and the reason that I want to get this album on Record Store Day. So first of all, it's limited to 3. I'll go through the Record Store Day exclusives first, which means they're not getting reissued again. So they're not Record Store Day firsts, they're Record Store Day exclusives. So this particular album, For the Roses, being reissued with a different cover, with the original intended cover. So this was the original cover, and you can see it's just a beautiful photo of Joni Mitchell on the rocks. And inside, I'll just quickly show that, her naked body. I will just cover that up just in case I get a YouTube strike. This was an interesting album choice because this was the first album of Joni Mitchell's Asylum era. So David Geffen had signed her, and previous to that she was on Reprise, who were letting her do what she wanted on her covers, on her record covers. But she landed with Geffen, and he said he wanted her face on the cover, and she wanted her original artwork, just like this one. So this was the Reprise one of Ladies of the Canyon, and you can see that artwork there. She moved to, in the early 70s, she moved to Asylum, and he said, I want your face on the cover. And one of the songs on here is called, and the big hit probably, is called You Turn Me On Like a Radio. And it was just kind of this really satirical poke at having to be commercial radio friendly, of which, Joni Mitchell really wasn't a commercial radio friendly artist. And it was a real dig at that. And so she kind of resented being asked to have her face on the cover of this. And so she sent David Geffen the naked photo and said, put this on the cover. It's a photo of the back of her naked on rocks. And he said, we can't do that. And so they put it in the gatefold. So that was the original album cover. So what they're releasing on Record Store Day, really interesting, is the original intended artwork. And this is it here. I've got this beautiful Joni Mitchell archive print of it, and you can see it's been kind of, I don't know if you can catch that, it's been stamped there as the Joni Mitchell archive. These are these beautiful kind of little kind of art prints that come in an envelope, and if you're the first, whatever, I don't know how many they do, but you get one with every of the Joni Mitchell archive orders you make off the Joni Mitchell website. So when she releases her archive series, if you're early enough, you get one of these. I've got a whole series of them. This was the original intended artwork, which I just thought was absolutely lovely, that Rhino Records, who are now doing her archive series, are agreeing to everything she wants. And so they're releasing For the Roses for the first time with the original artwork. So that's really special to me as a Joni Mitchell kind of super fan. You can see here, that's my Joni Mitchell collection there. So really, really happy with that. Okay, so that's my number one pick. That will be easy to get, I think. Like my local record store usually have Joni Mitchell record store releases left over, so I'm not worried about that one. The next one, similarly, I'm not worried about getting, but I'm super excited about. Many of you know that I am a Brandi Carlile super fan, and she's the artist that I'm a true completist of. I've got every version of every album. I've got all the CDs of every version, every country. So I've got hundreds of albums of this artist, this kind of band, which is Brandi Carlile, Phil Hansroth and Tim Hansroth. 20 years ago, to support the release of their sort of breakout album, The Story, they performed in Easy Street Records. Easy Street Records is their local record store in Seattle. They've been friends with Matt from Easy Street Records for many, many years. He has really supported them from when they were a young band right through now. And 20 years ago, they went to Easy Street Records. And as we know, Easy Street does these little live kind of events. And you go up onto this, this little stage, which, by day is where you have your hamburger because they've got a cafe. And then you can perform there, and it only has a capacity of a couple of hundred people because it's in the record store. And they put out this album live from Easy Street. It's only ever been released on CD. It had 7 tracks on it. And almost 20 years later, and that was to support The Story, and 20 years later, they've come back into Easy Street Records on the same day that her album was released this year, their album, Human. I shouldn't say Human, I call it Human. Returning to Myself. And on the same day that this album was released, and these signatures come from that exact event, this album was at that event and was signed by the entire band and Sister Strings over here. They recorded it, and they're releasing Live at Easy Street Records Volume 2 20 years later, exclusively for Record Store Day. And a fun fact about the cover of this album, it was a young graphic designer. She still lives in Seattle, and they got her to do the poster for that same event 20 years later, which was just a really nice touch. All right, that's number 2, and that's being released on Lost Highway label, which the Brandi Carlile band is now on, and that's limited to 8,000. As I said, won't be hard to get. So the next one is the Gits. So the Gits remaining surviving members, of course, the female lead singer Mia was tragically murdered when they were kind of hitting their stride in the early 90s, and the band kind of sort of fizzled out really. But they've been doing a reissue series, and this one was a recent one from last November called, this was the reissue of Enter the Conquering Chicken. They only released 2 albums during their lifetime. But the album that's being released on Record Store Day is Etc. It's only limited to 1,000, and it's been specially curated for Record Store Day, never to be released again, apparently. And it's all live, mostly live recordings of the band, a few cover songs, a few solo songs by Mia, but all live recordings and specially curated for Record Store Day. And it's done in this kind of black and red style as well, as you can see on the screen. So we've got all the Gits albums, really excited for that. The next one is The Cure. They're releasing 2, and I might get 2, but the one that I really want is the acoustic hits. So in 2001, The Cure put out a greatest hits album, and there was an accompanying CD at the time called Acoustic Hits, where they reimagined their songs acoustically. And they're reissuing both these albums on vinyl, remastered by Robert Smith, and I'm particularly interested in the acoustic vinyl version. I think it's the first time on vinyl for the acoustic hits, and I'm interested because I love The Cure, I love Robert Smith, I'm interested because he's remastered them, and these are also supporting War Child. There's a bunch of albums in UK in Record Store Day that are, donating £1 for every album sold for War Child, which I just think is a great initiative. So that's the acoustic hits is limited to 7,200. It's on bio vinyl, but bio vinyl the technology is getting better and better. So I am, it is what it is. So very happy about that one. The next one is a fun one, and it will sell out, mark my words. They sell out every year, whether you like it or not. And it's the Vince Guaraldi shaped disc. This year it's Arbor Day and Charlie Brown All Stars. So let me tell you about this. This is a bit interesting. So if you know the Charlie Brown releases, I'll just show you. This was one from a few years ago. It's the Great Pumpkin, Charlie Brown. Last year on Record Store Day, they did the Easter egg, and that sold out on the day. Went for hundreds of dollars in the secondary market. Absolutely, ridiculous. But it is what it is. I wasn't able to get it. It sold out before I was able to. But what I love about this one is these two. It's 2 albums, 2 singles. And some of the Charlie Brown specials didn't have enough music to kind of warrant a full release of the soundtrack. So what they've done is they put 2 together, and it's really clever. So one is a picture disc of the baseball mitt, and the second is a clear album with just the inner baseball. And when you put them on top of each other, it looks like the mitt and the baseball. Very, very clever. Love that. So that will sell out. I definitely want it. Probably won't be able to get it. And of course, that's released, as always, by Lee Mendelsohn. So the next one I am getting, this is the only one in my RSD wants final list that I'm getting that I'm not super familiar with. So you might wonder, why am I getting it? You should only buy music that you really love. For example, I love Vince Guaraldi. I love jazz music. I'm getting this because I trust someone's taste. So the Digital Gramophone, John, if you're watching, thank you. I asked him a few of what he was getting, and he gave me a little list of the stuff he's getting. And he told me about Pavement. He'll probably hate me for saying this kind of on my channel because it's going to be hard to get. But Pavement's 10-inch cult classic, apparently, Perfect Sound Forever, is being reissued on vinyl for the first time. And it just really piqued my interest. I am not a super fan of Pavement. I know them, but I don't own anything by them. And I know that album's super hard to get. And I just thought, gosh, that might be a really interesting one to get. And there's a few little fascinating things about this album, not the least of which it's only I think it's like 12 minutes long or something. It's so short, it's not funny. Like, yeah, I think it's 12 minutes long. Some of the songs are like 28 seconds. Some songs by other artists are 12 minutes. Granted, long songs, but still, this whole entire 10-inch is just 12 minutes of music. So Pavement, indie rock group, maybe slash punk. This is, first time repressed on vinyl. So if I see it, I will pick it up, but they are only issuing 2,000 of them, so they may not even make it to Australia. All right, the next one is just my ongoing love of the kind of the revival of 7-inch singles. I always pick up a 7-inch single on Record Store Day just because I think it's fun. I love it. That's my Xanadu from, when was that, Black Friday? It's actually really great. It's a remix of Xanadu. This was my Olivia Rodrigo and Noah Khan Stick Season. Again, fantastic. And they do little interesting things on Record Store Day for these singles. So this one was really interesting in that Noah sang one of Olivia's songs and Olivia sang one of Noah's songs, two A-sides. So just a bit of fun. I always pick something up. I've got a bunch of them. And this year, I don't think it'll be any problem to pick up the Taylor Swift. I love the fact she's doing this because she's getting people into record stores. She knows what she's doing. She could sell that anywhere she wants. Yet she's contributing to Record Store Day. Independent record stores will get a lot more people in there through their doors because she's releasing this Record Store Day exclusive. And I just think it's fantastic support of the independent record business. So well done, Taylor Swift. So I'll pick that up. I mean, that will be, I don't know how many editions of that there will be, probably 30,000 or something. Don't quote me, I'm making that up. So I'll pick that up. And that's just a fun kind of her Elizabeth Taylor song off her latest album, Life of Showgirl, and it's on that kind of purple glitter, which is a bit of fun. So they're the 7 Record Store Day exclusives I'm going to track down. Now, the Record Store Day firsts are a bit different. If I get them, I get them. If I don't, I don't. I know they're coming out again in a different colour variant. Doesn't matter. But the 3 Record Store Day firsts that I want to get. The first one is All the Road Running. And this was a duet album between Emmylou Harris and Mark Knopfler from Dire Straits. They did in 2006. So it's the 20th anniversary. And at the time, there was one reviewer I read said it is possibly one of the best albums of both their independent careers, which I thought was a big call. But it's a duet album of tracks they'd recorded over a 7-year period. They have a very deep mutual respect for each other, and so they're re-releasing that on vinyl as a Record Store Day kind of first, and I will get it. I'm a Emmylou Harris collector, and I don't have that album. You don't see it often, so I don't have it on vinyl, so I'll pick that up. The second of the Record Store Day firsts I'm going to get is the Elton John Positiva. Positiva, the dance label, is celebrating its 30th anniversary, and for Record Store Day they're releasing a fairly short track, but probably long because all the remixes are very long. Elton John, all his remixes, from everyone from Dua Lipa to Britney Spears to RuPaul, like a bunch of different artists. Elton John remixes are fantastic. Put them on at a party and you won't regret it. So, and that's a glow in the dark. Who doesn't love a glow in the dark? And then finally, another single. See my previous note about 7-inch singles. Lucy Dacus, who I'm a huge fan of, has announced she will release a limited to 2,000 Record Store Day first new song, but no one knows what it is. There's no image of it. It's just a big surprise. I'm assuming because she didn't know what it was going to be at the time. It's a Record Store Day first, so she obviously wasn't committing to making it an exclusive. It's a little odd. It's a little bit mysterious, but I love Lucy Dacus, and that will be one of the singles I pick up. So that's it. They're my 10 Record Store Day final list that I'm getting. So some honourable mentions. John Prine, the BBC Sessions. That's a exclusive release. I love John Prine. I'll probably get it. Adrian Lenker, have I got it there? Hang on. The vinyl version of this cassette. It's only been released on cassette and digital file. I'll pick that up if I see it, maybe. Jeff Buckley live at L'Olympia in Paris. I have the CD. I bought it at the time, so I've got the original. Be great to get on vinyl. The Jazz Dispensary, I always get them, and this year will be no different. And Bruce Springsteen live from Ashbury Park, the live, I think it's 5 LPs. It's probably out of my price range, to be honest, but I would love that as a kind of as a final, highly recommended. Maybe I'll get it. Watch me, I'll probably get all of this. Who knows? So you'll notice that I haven't got a lot of jazz titles on there. I get overwhelmed with the jazz titles, the ongoing, all the Miles Davis and the Bill Evans, particularly Bill Evans is always releasing stuff. And I sort of don't know jazz. I've got a large jazz collection, but I don't know jazz well enough to know why potentially is this special, or why is this just another milking of another live concert somewhere. So I do sort of wait for the aftermarket to see what resonates and what people think of them before kind of jumping in there. Okay, that's it. I'll see you in the next video.